Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. There's a lot to cover. There's been a lot going on, I know, but what I want to cover today is something that I think is really dangerous and really important and actually quite serious. So let's go ahead and bring it up. This just came out today. J. Michael Waller saying they will build a political police by whatever means necessary. And what he's responding to here is an announcement that was put out by the Department of Justice, where they say they're launching a national, quote, extreme risk protection order resource center, or to put it in an easier form, a federal red flag center. Quote, the launch of the National Extreme Risk Protection Order Resource Center will provide our partners across the country with valuable resources to keep, I'm going to call that FAs, out of the hands of individuals who pose a, quote, threat to themselves or others. Well, what does that mean, and who decides what it means? Because what it sounds like to me is a group of people can target you for harassment. If a group of people don't like you, right? Say you're somebody that is a well-known, maybe you're someone who is well-known for speaking out about how you feel politically. And maybe some people don't like that. Well, they can now say that you made them feel, quote, threatened. And now they can basically call the state and use the state to try to get you unalived. That's what this really is. Make no mistake, this is going to be used to target anybody that dissents. Any dissenting voices will be singled out for this to happen to them. They're not going to be doing this to people who are engaging in petty violent crime, because those people often don't follow laws, and it just, they don't, it seems like they're allowed to break the law. There's only some people where the laws are applied to them. That's just how it is, and everybody knows that. So they claim, like, again, what does it mean to be a threat to yourself or other? Well, you have the wrong ideas, so now you're a threat to yourself because you don't think the way that we think. That's what they're saying. The establishment of the center is one of the latest examples of the Justice Department's work to use every tool provided to them by the landmark bipartisan Safer Communities Act to protect communities from G violence. No, they're not trying to protect communities. They're actually endangering them. And we'll get into why. But let's listen to Kamala Harris gaslight everybody.
The second reason I am here is to announce that today I am launching the National Resource Center for Red Flag Laws. And this National Resource Center will be a place where we will, through that, provide for training for local leaders on how to use red flag laws and keep communities safe. The second
What does that mean? Use them to keep communities safe. So if a group of neighbors decide that they don't like me, can they now band together to unalive me to make themselves feel safe? Right? Is that what's going to happen? Because that's really where this is going. And that sounds hyperbolic, but it's not. We're going to get to an article you'll see that actually happened to somebody. Today, Kamala Harris is visiting the high school where the Parkland mass incident took place. Christopher Wray visited Parkland yesterday. Now, the DOJ is announcing a federal red flag center. Pay attention, folks. Absolutely very good on Brianna for catching this and putting this out there. I mean, this is not about helping anybody. Representative Massey says DOJ waited until the omnibus bill passed before announcing the new National Red Flag Center so you wouldn't know what the omnibus money is being spent on. And of course, Republicans and Democrats alike voted for this. Now, I want to talk about Duncan LMP because here we are. It's March 23rd today, guys, 2024. And we just had the 4-year anniversary of what happened to him, of his yeeting by law enforcement for literally nothing. This is an article by Jim Bovard from just less than like 3 weeks ago. Will the ghost of Duncan LMP haunt G-grabbing politicians? Well, I can answer you that one. No. They don't care. But I want you guys to consider this, okay? Listen, if you post a photo of one of these things, we have to be very careful here when we talk about these topics. If you post a photo of one of those on Instagram and tag it to your hometown and add a silly caption, right? Like a funny, kind of memeing, joking, trolling caption, police can then cite that to get a no-knock warrant and unalive you in a pre-dawn assault on your bedroom. If you think that sounds like it couldn't be the case, I assure you it is. And I'm gonna read part of this to you guys because I know a lot of people have never heard of him and don't know about what happened. It was overshadowed by somebody else's unaliving. In his novel 1984, Orwell warned, if you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. Duncan LMP, the 21-year-old software programmer who posted the joking, trolling photo I've just described, was unalived. He was shot 3 times without warning by a policeman standing outside a smashed-in window at 4:42 a.m. LMP was laying on his bedroom floor, bleeding profusely, gasping for breath, his eyes opened and terrified. And instead of offering first aid like a normal human being with empathy and compassion, a policeman instead came forward and placed his boot on LMP's throat. LMP died a few minutes later. Where is the national outrage about that? Where was the wall-to-wall media coverage? Where were the mostly peaceful protests? Where was the shutting down of entire cities, the creation of an autonomous zone? Where is the no justice, no, like, it didn't happen for this guy. He didn't matter. As Joe campaigns for re-election by vilifying G owners as bad, new details are coming out about one of the most brazen and deadly cases of ideological targeting, and that is what the federal Red Flag Center is about, by the way. It's about ideologically targeting people. They already have made lists of people whose opinions they don't like, people who dissent, people who, speak their mind, people who are very effective too in explaining things to other people. They really don't like them. So they've already got their list, and there's nothing to stop mass groups of people from trying to report mass flag and report somebody they don't like, to try to have something like this happen to them at their house. This is so dangerous. It's so unconstitutional. It's unwarranted. It is sickening, honestly. The FBI's DT symbols lists his name was Duncan LMP as a catchphrase among suspected baddies. Millions of Americans could face deadly perils from the government based on the same principle: ignorance of the law that Maryland used to justify yeeting LMP. Tomorrow will be the 4th anniversary of his passing. At 4:42 a.m., March 12, 2020, a Montgomery County, Maryland SWAT team arrived outside the bedroom where LMP slept next to his pregnant girlfriend in his parents' house in the affluent area of Potomac, Maryland. So, listen, if you think you've got I live in a nice upscale neighborhood, I've got nice neighbors, this could never happen to me. Literally, it could. And it can happen to you. It can happen to your brother, your son, your husband, your uncle. This could happen. One team of SWAT used a battering ram to smash in the front door of the home while setting off flashbang grenades. Like, this is literally a paramilitary tactical assault, like on a house in a residential neighborhood with a pregnant woman inside. It's insane. Simultaneously, another cop stepped up to a bedroom window, smashed it with a fireman's pike tool, pulled back the curtains. 2 flashbang grenades were thrown into the bedroom where a sleeping pregnant woman was in bed at before 5 o'clock in the morning, at late 4 a.m. What were they thinking? Another officer stepped up to the broken window and quickly shot Lemp 3 times. An official report later noted other members of the SWAT team were tasked with deploying flashbangs outside the residence to disorient the senses of the occupants of the house as to what was happening. By the way, this kind of thing is dangerous for law enforcement also. Police justified the preemptive paramilitary tactical assault by falsely asserting that Lemp possessed something he wasn't allowed to have under Maryland law. Police snared a no-knock warrant from a judge in part because Lemp said things that people didn't like, and he advocated for his civil rights. Now, they claimed that he had made anti-government comments, according to confidential informants recruited by police, and accused Lemp of being part of militia groups. They had no evidence that any of this had happened, but even if he did say anti-government rhetoric, like, that's literally the founding of our country. So no, like, we have the right to criticize our government. This is ridiculous. He had no history of violence, but he was outspoken on social media. His last tweet declared the Constitution is dead. 3 months later, so was he. Before he was unalived, he texted his mother that he might be targeted by police because he, quote, exercises his constitutional rights. Police claimed that Lemp had grabbed his R just before they unalived him, but citizens are obliged to take their word for it since they didn't wear body cams, and if they did, they didn't turn them on and did not record their paramilitary assault on the home because they know if people saw that, they'd be disgusted, and they wanted to hide the evidence. It's obstructing justice, actually. After Lemp was unalive, though, a policeman did walk through the wreckage, videotaping it, because they're proud of what they did. They wanted to commemorate, memorialize, and celebrate it. They filmed his mother sitting on her bed, weeping unconsolably. What kind of sick mind does that? Really, ask yourself that. His mother told me, quote, I will always wonder whether the police intended to unalive Duncan from the start. There was never a search. The way they conducted themselves seems as if they intended to unalive him even before the raid began. Police never sought to question him or his parents before yeeting him. The county government refuses to reveal whether police ever considered any alternative to peacefully detain him prior to attacking and assaulting him. The cop who gunned him down in his bedroom faced no charges. Why? Police are automatically absolved for unaliving people with ideas politicians disapprove. The legal doctrine of qualified immunity protects practically any cop not caught in the act of setting an orphanage on fire. Lemp's fate confirmed the old saying, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they aren't out to get you. The killing of Lemp should be one of the biggest police outrages of 2020, but the media ignored it because the victim wasn't the kind that they like, and nobody heard about it. It's very sad. And again, this guy did nothing. This kid did nothing. And this is just going to get worse. Now, let's keep it going. I did want to bring this up just very briefly. Brian Malinowski, for people who are unfamiliar with him, I'll just give you a brief rundown. I'm doing my best here to keep this short, by the way, too. I know everybody's busy and has things to do. He is the gentleman, though, that was, he worked for, I believe, the Arkansas airport. I think he was in Little Rock. I don't know if it was Little Rock Airport. But in any case, he worked at an airport in Arkansas. And they suspected him of making private sales of FAs. We use that for one of these. That's what that means, because we have to be very careful here when we're talking about these topics, as you guys know. And it's just really a creepy story. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention, as this involves the ATF. Also involves the use of informants. So let's start. Malinowski was being investigated for dealing in Fs without a license, which is a private sale, and, quote, unlawful acquisition, which he acquired also in private sale. to simply put this in short terms, the ATF is saying private sales are illegal. And so it continues. The officer, the ATF officer, which has since been redacted, the name, requested a search warrant because there's evidence of a crime / contraband, fruits of a crime, or other items illegally possessed / property designed for use, intended for use, or used in committing a crime. So they're alleging this. Blah, blah, blah. I, ATF executioner, am a law oppressive officer of the U.S. and assigned to the Little Rock field office, skipping a lot. Quote, we don't like he was engaged in private sales. ATF works in conjunction to oppress American citizens and unalive them for legal activities. They're explaining the process here, saying you will be unalived for not doing a 4473. Well, that's really what this was. So this is just insane too. An ATF industry operations investigator specialist. Just what kind of acronym is that? IOIS. Why do we have all of these stupid agencies? They don't do anything good. They started an investigation into him because Canada got a photo of one of his FAs from one of their CIs. They were never recovered, so they never had them in their possession. Numbers were visible. Then NTC traced them to Malinowski, who was the one who purchased them. So what's the issue? We'll find out. Well, there may not have been one, so maybe they had to make one. Essentially, he got the G's from a G broker, and apparently they claimed that some of the G's he had purchased and then sold privately were used to commit crimes. Fast and Furious. Let's just throwing it out there, just saying. Malinowski went to gun shows and bought G's, which ATF were wearing obviously hidden cameras and recorded him doing these private sales, which is just crazy to me. The first witness was basically arrested with an FA, and he got it at the show at the Arkansas State Fairgrounds. Malinowski had a booth where he was selling them, the older ones. This would be a private sale. What got the ATF's attention is that he was reaching out to sell more. Like, people were saying this was like a hobby of his, and that he essentially he was unalived for it, is basically what they're saying. So to wrap it up quickly, they're essentially accusing him of making private sales like across state lines. So that gave them apparently the justification to go unalive him. Okay, now let's move on. I did want to bring up this article. Red flag laws are anti-male, anti-G, and anti-due process. I do think it's important to point this out because they are. You're supposed to have due process, meaning that they can't do anything to you unless you are credibly suspected of a crime. There has to be a proper predication, it can't just be like, well, I don't like this person, so I want to use the power of the state to harm them. Because that's what this is really about. Any man who has suffered in family or criminal court by the false allegation of DV is well aware of the denial of due process and anti-male applications of what is called an OOP, an order of protection. What was designed as a shield for female DV victims has been turned into a sword, where the system itself becomes the abuser of the innocent who is denied due process protections while being presumed guilty of future V based upon his being male. Red flag laws will expand the ranks of those who can claim a person as, quote, dangerous and restrict their rights with no opportunity to be heard. It is sure to expand upon the number of men who unjustly accused and treated as guilty until having to prove, if they can, that they are innocent. Originally, OOPs were limited in family court to married persons and those who had a child in common, and in criminal court to those already arrested for committing an act of V. But over time, the persons who could obtain an OOP was expanded from those having a relationship to, quote, persons in an intimate relationship, with the relationship defined by the person requesting the order. Thus, a person can claim relationship and obtain an order even where none exists. To this, we now want to add police officers, teachers, social workers, and other interested parties. And at first directed at actually violent individuals, the application has been watered down from V to A and applied to those who might be a danger in the future. Might, could be. Read that as pre-crime. Also, due process has thrown out as the victim can now file for an order and relief ex parte in both criminal and family court, thus forcing a person to prove their innocence in 2 venues, which is insane. In criminal court, prosecutorial abuse has police and prosecutors filing high and setting low. Flying high and setting low, I think they mean. Filing high and settling low. Men are often charged with felony or high misdemeanor offenses and threatened with long sentences, many incarcerated before they can make bail. That's happening with increasing regularity, despite them not being like any kind of like threat to the community. Then at trial offered a plea deal to a violation level offense and 1 year of OOP. In family court, the preponderance of evidence, 51%, means a judge can find one party more believable and issue orders where literally no evidence exists. Of course, the idiocy that no OP prevents any V flies in the face of common sense, as a violent person committing these acts faces higher sentences for the V than violating an order. Thus, the only person who is restrained is a person who wouldn't commit the violence in the first instance. Police, prosecutors, and judges fear the political backlash of not doing anything, and as such, process and issue these OOPs on mere allegation alone with no evidence presented. Quote, "I'm afraid of him," results in denial of constitutional rights. The process is conducted again ex parte, so the man doesn't even know that there's an allegation against him or who filed the allegations. That's nuts. The slow erosion of due process and constitutional rights is part of a radical agenda. I would say that. Yeah. So, well-meaning laws to, quote, protect women and children haven't and may indeed be harming them. Yes, look what happened to Duncan LMP, right? His girlfriend was pregnant. He has he's a child now who lost their dad. Like, this is insane. This doesn't help anybody. Okay, so, anyways, I just wanted to bring that up. This is very true. And then I want to end it on something that ties in together. It's interesting with the Malinowski story, how that had this Canada connection with the CIs, because I want you guys to listen to this, and we'll end it here. This has been long enough. This is coming from Arnaud Bertrand. I hope I'm saying your name right. I'm probably not. I apologize. Wow, a secret report by the Canadian police warns, quote, the federal government that Canada may descend into civil unrest once citizens realize the hopelessness of their economic situation, and that, quote, the decline in living standards will accelerate, quote unquote. The report was made public as a result of an access to information request, and these are the non-redacted bits. So I think that, and I'm not entirely sure, I'm not an expert, but I think that the access to information request is sort of like the same as a FOIA request here in America. Like this, I think this may be Canada's version of it. I don't know if it's the same, but it's something like that. Anyways, it says, quote, the coming period of recession will accelerate the decline in living standards that the younger generations have already witnessed compared to earlier generations, unquote. Adding that, quote, many Canadians under 35 are unlikely ever to be able to buy a place to live, and that, quote, economic forecasts for the next 5 years and beyond are bleak, unquote. The report's most heavily redacted sections is one carrying the subtitle, quote unquote, erosion of trust. The past 7 years have seen marked social and political polarization in the Western world, unquote, reads a partial first sentence with the entire rest of the section deleted. Looks like the West is about to validate Confucius' most important teaching when it comes to governance. In the Analects, one of his disciples asked him about the essence of good government, and he replies, the requisites of government are that there be a sufficiency of food, enough military equipment, and the confidence of the people in their ruler. When his disciple asks, quote, if it were necessary to dispense with one of these, which of the three should be done without? Confucius answers the military equipment. Again, asked if it were necessary to dispense with one of the remaining two, which should be foregone. Confucius replies, part with the food. Death has always been the lot of men. But if the men have no faith in their rulers, then the state cannot exist, unquote. In other words, trusting government is the most fundamental basis for the state, without which it cannot exist. Look at polls in trusting government in most Western countries today, and you'll realize this means there is a big, big problem. Yes, so secret RCMP reports Canadians may revolt once they realize how broke they are. And so I want to leave it there because, look, they may be doing this stuff in preparation for something they know is coming, right? Like, what if we are going into, and I have been warning about this, I know other people have warned about it as well, a serious financial crisis or something like this that could cause some kind of instability. It seems like they're preparing and setting the stage to essentially create a police state. And I think that's really what we're seeing. We're seeing the rise of like a police state unlike anything we've ever seen before in human history, and that is very concerning. Anyways, I hate doing these videos that feel very negative, like we always feel like we're getting bad news. So I will end it by saying we did get some good news, if you believe it. I know some of you don't. Kate Middleton has been found. The Princess of Wales apparently has cancer, which is very sad if true, and she's getting treatment, and that is why she has not been in the public. Now, she put out a video statement, and I know people are kind of already questioning that video because of the background, like they're not seeing any of the plants move and things like this. That could be a green screen, like this is being recorded in a studio with a green screen and they just put the picture in the background, right? And that's why you're not seeing any wind or any of the flowers moving or the grass or whatever. But somebody was zooming in and looking at like how one of her eyebrows doesn't move the entire time she's talking, like, that is not, to me, evidence that the video is AI. It could just be that she, like, her face isn't that expressive. I don't know if my eyebrows move a lot unless I'm, like, very emoting or, like, speaking passionately. So I don't know that that's conclusive of anything, but I think it's good at least that we've seen her and gotten to hear from her. Nobody was asking for intimate details, by the way, of her medical records. Like, people just literally wanted proof of life, and what happened was it was very questionable. The way it was happening was concerning, and I think people were right to ask questions. Yeah, because that was handled very poorly, and I'm still not necessarily sure about it, but I think it is a positive note that she is alive. Nothing, seemingly nothing bad has happened to her. I do feel very bad though for her diagnosis at her age. I mean, that's horrible. We don't know what kind of cancer she has, but it's good that she's getting treatment for it, and I think we're all hoping and praying that she gets healing. With that, that's all I have for you guys right now. I know there's lots of other stuff you guys probably want to talk about. There's the the Daily Wire debacle. There's with Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro and all of that. And if you guys want me to do a video on it, you can let me know. I was shocked by, what is his name? Andrew Klavan. I don't really, because I don't like watch the Daily Wire, but I know who some of them are. Like, I know Matt Walsh. I know who Candace Owens is. I know who Michael Knowles is, but that's really it. And I don't follow them. Like, I don't watch their stuff, but I do see them on social media, you know? So I had that interaction with them. But that Clavin guy, he made this bizarre statement where he said that saying Christ is king is a some kind of dog whistle or something, which is just ludicrous and insane. So if you guys want me to do a video talking about that, let me know. Other than that, I want you guys to enjoy your day and have a good Saturday.